Logan lifted his glass before the applause had even settled. To vision, he said, smiling wide, and to knowing how to lead. The room laughed when he added, some of us are meant for the spotlight, others are better with hard hats. His eyes found me. My sister Natalie, he continued, casual and cruel. She's always preferred the job site to the boardroom. The laughter rolled again, warmer this time. My father nodded as if this were a charming anecdote. My mother leaned toward the nearest investor and said softly, she's practical, always has been. I felt the shift then, not shock, not anger, just clarity. I set my glass on the table before it could start shaking in my hand. The entire content of the video is a fictional work created by the writing team of the Revenge World channel, intended to reflect common conflicts in families and society, helping viewers recognize their emotions and choose a more positive way of living. Logan went on talking, but I stopped listening. I turned and walked toward the elevators. Natalie, my mother called, her voice tight. Don't do this. Do what I said, not turning back. Don't make a scene, she whispered, catching up to me. Tonight matters. I pressed the call button. So did the last 9 years. The doors opened. She grabbed my wrist. You're being sensitive. My father finally spoke, his tone calm, practiced. You should stay. This is family. I looked at him then. No, I said, this is ownership. Logan's voice echoed behind us. She'll cool off. She always does. I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed between us, cutting off the music, the laughter, the version of me they preferred. As the car descended, my phone buzzed with messages I did not open. If you're still listening, stay with me. What happened after that laugh is where the truth begins. I didn't go home. I drove until the city thinned and the roads stopped pretending to be polished. My phone buzzed again. I let it buzz. At a red light. I finally glanced down. A text from Logan. You embarrassed Dad. Nothing else. No question. No concern. Another vibration. My mother this time. Call me when you calm down. I laughed once, sharp and quiet, and set the phone face down. They always framed it that way. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't disrespected. I was emotional. That word had been their favorite tool for years. It made everything they did sound reasonable, and everything I felt sound optional. I pulled into an empty lot near the waterfront, the kind of place they never visited unless there was something to sell. I turned off the engine and sat there, hands still on the wheel. 9 years. That was how long I had stayed quiet. Long enough for silence to feel like responsibility. My phone buzzed again. A voicemail preview lit the screen. My father's name. I didn't open it. I already knew what he would say. He would remind me of the company, the employees, the legacy. He would say we needed to talk. He would say this wasn't personal. I whispered it aloud, just to hear it sound different. It was always personal. I started the car again and drove south, farther than I ever had without telling anyone where I was going. When my father called 9 years ago, he did not start with hello. We have a problem, he said. A serious one. I was in my apartment near campus, surrounded by textbooks and half-finished models. I had 1 semester left at Berkeley. 1. They're threatening to shut the site down, he continued. The fine alone could be over $1,400,000. I remember gripping the phone and saying, that's not my responsibility. There was a pause. Then his voice softened. You're the only one who understands the numbers. 2 weeks later, I was back home, sleeping in a construction trailer that smelled like dust and cold coffee. Logan greeted me with a grin. Good. You're here. The foreman keeps pushing back on costs. I'm not here to save money. I told him. I'm here to keep people alive. He laughed. You always say things like that. I worked nights rewriting load paths, days walking the site, evenings explaining the same risks to people who nodded and ignored me. When inspectors came, they spoke to Logan. When decisions were made, My name was never in the room. One night, after I corrected a foundation error that could have shut the project down for months, my mother brought me a sandwich. "You look tired," she said gently, "but this will all be worth it. Families stick together." I believed her. By the time the fines were reduced and the site reopened, Logan was giving interviews about resilience. My father shook my hand once and said, "You did good work. No title, no equity, just relief that the crisis was over." I told myself that was enough. My phone started ringing before I reached the freeway. Logan didn't waste time. "You made Dad look weak last night." "I left," I said. "That's all. You walked out in front of investors. Do you know what that does to confidence? I know what it does to me." He exhaled sharply. "We need you to sign the attribution transfer. Today." There it was. No apology. No hesitation. I said, "I'm not signing anything." The line went quiet. Then my mother's voice replaced his, smooth and urgent. "Natalie, please don't be difficult. This deal affects everyone." "I'm not being difficult," I said. "I'm being careful." She lowered her voice, the way she always did when she wanted to sound reasonable. "The investors need clarity. The paperwork is just a formality." "It isn't," I said. "It puts my name on things I don't control." My father joined the call without warning. "If this project stalls," he said, "you'll be the one who destroys this family." I felt something tighten in my chest. I didn't create this situation. "You're refusing to fix it," he replied. My mother cut in quickly. "Logan has children. Natalie, think about what you're risking." I closed my eyes. That was their last move. Guilt dressed as responsibility. "I have thought about it," I said. "That's why I'm saying no." No one spoke after that. I ended the call and placed the phone on the passenger seat, face down, like it was something that could still burn me. I saw it the next morning, before I finished my coffee. Logan had posted a photo from the launch event. The executive team stood shoulder to shoulder, smiling beneath the project logo. I knew that photo. I had been standing on the far left. In this version, I was gone. The caption read, "Leadership means knowing who belongs at the center." My phone rang almost immediately. I didn't answer. A minute later, a message came through from Victor Reyes, the senior site supervisor. He never texted unless something was wrong. "They just told us to revise the steel order," he wrote, cutting it back. "Logan says it's engineering approved." I typed back, "How much are they cutting?" His reply came fast. "Roughly 12 to 15%. I asked for the updated sign-off. They said not to worry." I stared at the screen, my pulse steady but cold. I called Victor. He picked up on the first ring. "This didn't come from me." I said, "I figured." He replied, "That's why I called you." I ended the call and looked again at the photo. The empty space where I had stood felt deliberate, like practice. They weren't just moving on without me. They were rewriting the story so I had never been there at all. I opened the state permit database from my kitchen table, the same way I had done hundreds of times before for routine checks. Parcel number, project name, load. The file appeared faster than I expected. I clicked it once, then again. Slower this time. The drawings looked familiar in a way that made my shoulders tense. The margins, the notation style, the sequence. "This isn't right," I said out loud. It was an early draft, one I had rejected years ago and clearly marked as unsafe. I scrolled down, my breath steady, my hands cold. At the bottom of the page was my name, not handwritten, a scanned signature, lifted cleanly from an old document, one I had signed for a completely different submission. My phone rang. Victor again. "Tell me you didn't approve this," he said. "I didn't." I replied, "And I never would." "They're saying it came through a consulting firm," he added. "Third party, clean chain." Of course it was. Enough distance to pretend no one noticed. I closed the file and opened the metadata. The timestamps told the rest of the story. Old calculations, New upload. My name doing their work for them. They used me, I said quietly. Victor didn't answer right away. Then he said, "They're counting on you staying quiet." I looked at the screen one last time before shutting the laptop. They're counting on the wrong thing. I drove back to the site that afternoon, not to confront anyone, but to listen. Victor met me near the trailer, his jaw tight. They told the crew the revisions came from upstairs, he said. No questions allowed. Did Logan say my name? I asked. Victor hesitated. Not directly. He said the engineer of record had already approved it. That was the moment it settled in my chest. Not panic. Recognition. Inside the trailer. I spread the drawings across the table. This version passes on paper, I said. Barely. But it strips out redundancy. Victor leaned closer. Meaning it won't fail tomorrow. I replied, it will fail slowly. Wind fatigue. Seasonal stress. 8 to 12 years from now, the structure won't have any margin left. Victor swallowed. And your name is on it. Yes. He rubbed his face. So, if something happens, I go to prison, I said. Or worse. People get hurt, and I carry it. My phone buzzed. Logan. I let it ring once before answering. You've been busy, he said. Looking at files you don't need to worry about. You used my signature. I said. You don't get to tell me what to worry about. He laughed softly. Relax. It's a technicality. You signed similar drafts before. Not that one. You're overreacting, he replied. The building meets code. It meets minimums, I said. You cut safety to save money. There was a pause. Then his voice hardened. You walked away. You don't get to sabotage us now. I'm not sabotaging anything. I said, you are. My mother's voice came through faintly on his end. Tell her to stop, she said. We can't afford this. Logan spoke again. Slower. If you make noise, you'll be the reason this falls apart. Everyone will know. I understood then. They weren't afraid of the risk. They were afraid of the blame landing anywhere else. I ended the call without another word. Back in my car, I opened my laptop and saved every file twice. They had built their future on the assumption that I would stay silent. They had mistaken endurance for consent. Marianne Holt did not invite me to sit. She stood behind her desk, arms crossed, eyes on the documents I had placed between us. You're early, she said. People usually come to me after they've already lost. I'm trying not to. I replied. She flipped through the pages without hurry. These drafts are old. They're the ones being built. I said. She stopped at my signature, and this scanned, reused, submitted without my consent. Marianne looked up then. If this goes wrong, the state won't care who reused it. They'll care whose name is on it. I know. I said. She leaned back against the desk. So why are you here? I want my name off their failure. I said. And I want the work stopped before someone gets hurt. She smiled slightly. Not kind. Not cruel. I don't rescue families. I buy leverage. I'm not asking for sympathy. I said, I'm offering proof. She considered that. Metadata. Submission history. Third-party routing. She nodded once. This will get attention. And you, I asked. I get a clean entry into a stalled waterfront project, she said. And a reputation for spotting structural lies before they collapse. I met her gaze. What do I get? You get protection, she said. Legal counsel, access to regulators, and a position here that matches your actual value. There it was. Not forgiveness. Not justice. Terms. I slid the final folder toward her. I'm not signing anything that hides the truth. Marianne picked it up. Good, she said. I don't invest in people who still think silence is loyalty. I stood. Then we're clear. She nodded once. We are. When I left her office, my hands were steady. For the first time in years, the next move wasn't about fixing someone else's mess. The call didn't come from my family. It came from Eric Lawson at the state office. A stop work order has been issued, he said, effective immediately. I closed my eyes once. Thank you. By the afternoon, Logan's voice filled my voicemail, breaking in places he never let anyone hear. You didn't have to do this, he said. We could have fixed it. My mother followed, softer, desperate. Come home. We'll talk. I didn't reply. Marianne sent a single message. The site is quiet. Investors are stepping back. That was enough. Weeks later, I stood in a small conference room, reviewing drawings for a new project. No cameras, no speeches, just work done cleanly, with names where they belonged. I signed my approval slowly, ink drying under my hand. My name. My responsibility. My phone buzzed again. A message from someone I didn't recognize. I listened from the beginning. Thank you for telling this. I typed back once, then stopped. Instead, I let the moment breathe. If you stayed with me through this, you already understand why stories like this matter and why silence never protects the right person. Outside, machines sat still where they used to roar. Inside, the weight I had carried for years finally rested where it belonged. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped holding them up